After one of its longest summits ever, 4 days, the EU has agreed on a landmark program, a €750 billion recovery fund called Next Generation EU, which will give €390 billion in grants to the states that are hit hardest by the pandemic. And that money will be borrowed by all of the EU states together, by the EU as a whole. So you can see this is a huge step forward in common fiscal responsibility, something that the Corona bonds had proposed some time ago. The package did not turn out to be as big and as important as Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron had helped. The 390 billion came down from an initial 500 billion, but still it's an enormous step forward. The states that will receive the money will be the ones that will be able to determine on certain criteria that they have suffered the most economic harm from the pandemic. And the way they will unlock the funding is to propose reforms. And so, Europe will have a hand in things like maybe Spain's minimum basic income, which was approved recently. There were some concessions to the frugal four, the states that tend to pay more into the budget than they receive, which did not want to borrow on behalf of other states. Those states, which include the Netherlands, won a concession that they would have sort of an emergency break where they could stop the funding. An individual country could stop the funding if they looked at, say, Italy or Spain and believed that they were not spending the money appropriately. So for 3 months they could halt the funding. Then the Commission will vote on it. So this was a big concession to them. Also, these countries that pay in more than they receive, the net contributors, will receive larger rebates in the budgets in the future. This was a concession. France had actually hoped to end those rebates, which were first conceded to Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s. So there's also another interesting mechanism in this bill. They wanted to force states that were not observing the rule of law or democratic principles. They wanted to be able to stop funding to them in order to force them to be more democratic. And this was boycotted by Hungary, which threatened to veto the whole bill if this was included. But there is a provision that says that a qualified majority of Europe could stop funding if they believe that a state is flaunting democracy. So there may be some new own resources. Not much was agreed on that. They're hoping for a digital tax, maybe a carbon tax that will help to fund some of this. But in any case, this is a huge step forward for Europe towards greater unity. It could only have been achieved with a German-French axis. And I think it's a great moment for Europe. Probably it's something that could never have been done if the UK had stayed in the EU.